Living with my parents was hard. But at the age of 14, I was lucky enough to be placed into the care of my grandparents and my auntie. And they continued to raise me with lots of love. But it didn't stop my destructive behaviour. I was quite the party girl for many years. But then something happened. A series of events which changed my life forever. I moved from Sydney to Queensland in 2010, and in late 2012, my grandparents and my auntie fell quite ill. My auntie was battling throat cancer, and my grandparents were both admitted into hospital with varying symptoms. And I don't really think that the reality of that situation really hit me. You know, I kind of just thought, nothing's ever going to happen to us. But after a few weeks in hospital, in December 2012, I received a phone call from a doctor who told me my grandfather had passed away. He'd had a heart attack. I've kind of never felt what I'm going to explain to you now. My whole world just stopped. My body was shaking. My head was just spinning out of control. I felt like I was choking on every breath, and I just screamed, no, 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 no. I couldn't believe that I would never see or speak to my grandfather again, that he was gone, and I could barely breathe. After the funeral, I got a little fold-up bed and I spent some time with my grandmother in her hospital room and stayed with her. And we had lots of conversations about life and death and love, and we hugged a lot. And we put some plans in place to move her to live with us in Queensland so we could look after her. And I really set up the most beautiful space for her in my home, and I was so excited to have her live with us. So in January, not even 2 months after Grandpa's death, I flew down to Sydney to pick up my gran. She was meeting me at the airport. And as I got through the gate, I turned my phone on and I got a call from my auntie's friend, and she said to me, "I'm so sorry." I just collapsed in a crumbling heap and screamed again in the middle of bustling Sydney airport. She found me in the crowds, and I said, "Where is she?" And she pointed to the escalators, and I ran. I ran so fast, and I just pushed everyone out of my way, and I got to the top of the escalators, and there was federal police, there was ambulance officers, and there was makeshift petitions, and I pushed a petition aside, and there was my gran's lifeless body on the cold, hard floor of Sydney Airport. And I just sprawled myself over her. And I screamed again, "No, no, no. You were supposed to come home with me." She'd had a heart attack whilst my auntie was wheeling her into the airport. So, second funeral within 2 months, and for the second time I was to do another eulogy. And I remember when I saw my grandmother's body in the casket, and my body just crumbled like shattered glass, and I was just crippled with grief. And I wish I could say that my loss ended there, but this story gets even crazier. And in the May, so not even 6 months since Grandpa's original passing, my auntie lost her battle with throat cancer. So 1, 2, 3. I lost all my family. So next funeral, and again I got up to do the eulogy. I mean, geez, you know, at this point you could hire me as a professional eulogist. But let me share this with you, friends. Death changes your spirit. And with the death of someone close to you comes the death of something inside of you. And there's this realization that we are really human and subject to the finale of life at any given moment. But then you sense there's this flickering, there's this light that switches on inside of you, and it's like this light kind of taps you on the shoulders, and the universe starts this conversation with you. And you understand that you haven't really lost, and you're always loved. And the universe says, it's time to start a new journey, a new way of living. So you get this wisdom that only death and loss can offer. And as I listened and tuned into this voice, I woke up, and there was no going back to sleep. And I started to find a way of connecting, because when you lose someone, you really do disconnect. And I got that connection with yoga. I began this daily practice. Layer by layer, I was healing my body and mind, and I soon became a yoga teacher. And guess what happened as I became awake and I changed? I got a bit judgy pants, a bit preachy, got all spiritual, because that often happens, right? And you know, I was judging myself for who I was judging others, and I lost and I gained some people. And my husband, well, he thought I was really inspirational, but he also thought I was quite boring. And the truth is, you know, it wasn't me. And I was missing the point. You know, I had to learn to step forward and own all that I was. And that's called acceptance. And then I tuned into that voice again, that intuitive voice. Yeah, it's called intuition. You know, this voice of death and loss, it's intuition. It's in all of us. And, you know, it asked me to consider my purpose. And probably like many of us, you know, we wander around in our life searching for our purpose. But this voice said to me, hang on, what if just being happy was a purpose? Like, what? Just being happy, that's it. Being happy to take your dog for a walk, being happy having a swim in the ocean, being happy being a mum, being happy looking after your home, being happy living a simple life without working your guts out to burn out. What if that was enough? And wouldn't that be a relief? Just got to keep it simple, the voice said. Be about moments and not things. Then the voice said, shine, Melissa. It's time to shine. And it all starts with your self-belief. I mean, my family always knew I was capable of anything, and I just had to start to believe it. So last year I published my first book, and guess what? It got to #1 in 3 categories. You know, if you tune in with your heart, it'll take you places that your head never dreamed of. If you release your grip on what you think the universe has planned for you, or if you release your grip on what you can't do, you open yourself up for what's really out there. And I'm living proof of that. And then when you shine, you dare to dream. And it all starts in your mind, and it all starts in your heart. You know, I'm not top of my networking marketing business yet, but I will be, and I'm going to have failures along the way. But failure really only happens if you quit. So I'm not going to quit. Just going to keep showing up. And I mean, look at me. I'm standing here. This is a dream for me, and it's real now. And one of the biggest teachings I gained from death is to live with an open heart. Death taught me to live fiercely and to love even more. Now for me, living with an open heart is walking down the beach, swimming in the ocean, spending time with family, traveling this beautiful world, ticking every item off my bucket list. It's serving others with kindness, and it's not judging others or myself. And now as I am creating my life, I realize and I'm reminded of the power of manifestation. We have the power to make anything happen. I recall an exercise my mentor took me through a few years ago, and she asked me to identify what it felt like to write my book. And I said I would feel free, inspired, zealous, unshackled, spunky and strong. And that is exactly how I feel. Not only about my book, but after the death of my family and a lifetime of hard circumstances, I finally feel like that about me. And now I have a greater life to live and more love to give. And I've learnt never to take life for granted, and in every moment, nourish your soul.